It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show. Today's date is the 10th. We're in the double digits of November, 10th of November, 2025. John, and before we get into my top three, this hot off the presses, and you know it's got to be good information because it's from Info Dude, right? You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
According to Info Dude, this is what he sends me. The job numbers for the U.S. government are primarily derived from two surveys conducted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Current Population Survey, which estimates unemployment, and the Current Employment Statistics Survey, which provides data on employment and payrolls from about 121,000 businesses and government agencies. These surveys are conducted monthly, and the data is revised as more information becomes available, which makes my point. There's all sorts of companies that don't report to that. So, to the point where if there's like 100 small businesses in St. Louis, in the St. Louis region today, and they all hire 2 people, but they don't report that, the numbers aren't any good, are they?
Yeah, I guess it's lost in there, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Info Dude. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, and what do we start off with, B-Block?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
Man, you know what? Your time away. You must have been working on your scales and things like that because you got the pitch perfect.
Thank you, Brad.
You and Anna Kendrick, I'm telling you. Okay, we start off with, what do we start off with, John?
It's number 3.
It's number 3.
We've never done that one before. Okay, Brad, some weekends I take bamboo shoots and stick them under my fingernails. Some weekends, I purposely slam my door in my car with my hand still in the door frame. And then most weekends, I listen to NPR. And this weekend, there's a new show they've been running for several weeks called, and John, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, the name of the show is Go Fact Yourself. That's the name of the show, okay?
Oh, that's pretty funny.
And it's like an audience participation game show where they have, and it's sort of interesting because what the interesting part of it is they typically ask questions and then they bring out the mystery expert who tells the people if they got the questions right or wrong. And typically it could be a sports person. A couple weeks ago, it was like some big basketball star, can't remember his name, and they were asking about things in the NBA. And then when the people answer the question, then they say, well, for the answers to those questions, we bring out blah, blah, blah. This week, it was a political question, 3 political questions, and the guest, they call him the guest expert, was Barbara Boxer. Remember Barbara Boxer?
Oh, yeah. Is she still with us?
Yes.
I didn't know she was still with us. Well, that's great. Did Feinstein die or because they were a dynamic duo for a while. Are they both still with us, or did only one of them die?
Now you mention that, I'm thinking to myself, maybe this was a best of I was listening to. Maybe. I
thought she bit the big one. I could be wrong though.
Hold on, let me look real quick because I'm not going to say anything negative about her. I just thought it was BARBARABOXER. You know what? Now that you mention that. No, I believe she's still alive. Yes, she was born in 1940. November 11th, 1940. She's 84, so she's still alive. Okay.
Well, tomorrow's her birthday.
Oh, it is. Interesting. Yes.
Amazing. Okay, I didn't mean to distract you, Brad.
Born on Veterans Day.
Doctor's still alive.
Okay. She answered the questions, and then they did a little short little interview with her. Blah 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 blah. That kind of stuff. And the thing that was interesting was they said to her, what do you think of what's going on right now with the U.S. government, and especially with the political parties? And her answer was, which I found very interesting, she says, I don't even recognize the Republican Party. And I thought to myself, okay, hold on a minute. This is the woman who is a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat who now has a mayor-elect of the biggest city in the country who is an avowed socialist. We have a senator in the Senate who is an independent, Bernie Sanders. We have AOC. We have Cori Bush. And the example she gives, and one of the hosts says, well, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, go back in history and look at what's happened. The Republicans, once upon a time, were interested in the environment. They're the ones that created the EPA. And you and I have talked about this before. Nixon started the EPA. He created the EPA. Then she says, and I can't remember if it was Bush 1 or Bush 2, he was on the board of Planned Parenthood. Okay. Can I give you my observations on this?
Yeah, please do.
I find this interesting because of the fact that I think what's happened with the EPA is an example, a perfect example of the government bureaucrats running amok. I am all for a clean environment. I'm all for not having big smokestacks belching black smoke into the air and stuff like that. Remember, once upon a time, we had this thing called acid rain. Do you remember acid rain, John?
I do remember that from the 80s. I remember it very well.
Right. We don't have acid rain anymore. It's gone. So the EPA has fixed a lot of things. But just like your example in the A block, if you have a bureaucrat in the Department of Revenue who says, we're going to start charging tax on convenience fees at retail outlets, aren't they going a little bit too far, John? Wouldn't you say that is like an overreach?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it is. So your point is that Barbara Boxer says she doesn't recognize the modern Republican Party. She's not holding up a mirror to her own party.
That's exactly it. I thought to myself, okay, and the interesting part of it was that Trump is not for getting rid of the EPA. What he's for is, and the classic example that impacts me at my crap transmitter site, and you know the exact thing because this was something you dealt with Monsanto. The streams things, what's the act you called it? The thing where anything that if you can put a boat in a puddle, it's navigable. What's that term?
Yeah. Waters of the United States.
And that's a perfect example, if you know the story behind this, that essentially the EPA had jurisdiction over bodies of water that were navigable. And typically you'd think, big lakes, rivers, that kind of thing. Like Lake of the Ozarks. Technically, they would have, say so over Lake of the Ozarks as far as environmental regulations. But
not a pond at the crap transmitter.
Exactly. Not a 2-acre pond. Or, more appropriately, what some of the ranchers got into is they move their cattle around on their ranch. They build small watering holes. Essentially, they get out there with a bulldozer and they push dirt and make a place where the water fills up when it rains. And then when they move the cattle somewhere else, they knock that out and they build another one. That was what they went after. The ranchers were getting fined by the EPA because they were tearing down watering ponds, which could be like, 200, 300, 400 square feet. So, and then the whole thing with the Planned Parenthood, I mean, hasn't, and is it just me, but hasn't Planned Parenthood in itself become sort of radicalized?
Yeah, I don't think, they would tell you that they use their branch locations to provide essential women's health for a gamut of vaginal and uteral things, if uteral is a word. But yeah, their leadership is certainly pro-abortion. By definition, they're the abortion industry.
Right. And isn't Planned Parenthood, isn't this my recollection of this? Doesn't this go back to the eugenics?
Eugenics is what you're saying. The woman, Margaret Singer.
Exactly.
Who was a founder, one of the original founders. Now, for what it's worth, Planned Parenthood has come out and said that they disavow eugenics. They disavow their founders, original. I'm making up that I got her name right. Yeah, it's Margaret Sanger, not Singer. So my apologies to a dead abortionist. But her point was that she wanted to eradicate black kids,
yes,
I believe, and abortion would be a way to do that.
Right, that was what originally, and if you ever say that, sometimes people go, that's not true, but that is history, correct, John?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And her quote was, the context was, we do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population.
Right, because they were trying to exterminate the Negro population. They just didn't want anybody to know they were doing it, right?
Yeah, and Planned Parenthood today says, well, that was 100 years ago. That has nothing to do with us.
But see, what I find, like when I heard her say this, I thought to myself, how in the world can she look at the Republican Party and make that comment when the Democratic Party, we're talking the John F. Kennedy, one of the most famous Democrats, if he were alive today, he would be a Republican, don't you think, John?
Now, did they ask her about the modern Democrat Party, or did you just hear the part where she talked about
No. I was hoping they would ask that question, but all you have to do is listen to the show. Whenever they bring up, it's like what's the other show? What's My Line, or Whose Job Is It? Or I can't remember that. I never remember. Peter Sagal does the show, and
wait, don't tell me.
Wait, don't tell me. I can never remember that. And they always have a live audience. Once again, they had a live audience. They were someplace, and when they brought up something about Trump, it's boo.
Yeah, the crowd goes wild.
Right, and when they bring up something about Mondami, it's yay.
So, I think we know the big takeaway is that Barbara Boxer is still alive and kicking, and she's all of 3'11", I think.
Yeah, she's a very short person. But once again, John, you bring up an interesting point. A good interviewer would have said, well, Barbara, what about your party? It's gotten pretty pretty weird, with all these crazy things going on, but it wasn't said. Okay, number 2. Ready for number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hold on a minute. My computer has glitched here.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
I should just let John do it.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
Lambert Airport. Did you hear the statistic that came out this morning? And by the way, if those of you who hadn't heard over the weekend, I think it was 8 Democrats defected and voted for the continuing resolution. So essentially, effective today, the government shutdown is over. Wouldn't that be safe to say, John?
Yeah, I think so. And the far left is, of course, apoplectic about this, as we heard in the lead into our show. But I don't want to distract you, Brad. What are the stats from Lambert Airport?
Well, the interesting part of it was that the statistics that I read, and I heard this morning on another radio station, talking about the fact that the major airports had delays, but not at Lambert. So what does that tell you about Lambert?
Yeah, the former TWA hub is not significant enough to have flights canceled.
Right, and they said that traffic at Lambert is pretty much on schedule, and there are no cancellations or delays to speak of. I'm thinking to myself, how sad is this? But yet, you weren't here last week. We have news about Lambert. The lady with the Heimberger, what's her name? Heimberger McKay.
Yeah, Nybrugge. She's been there for 20 years. I'll get her name wrong, so no disrespect intended. But yeah, I read and I do a website every day. Yeah, she left, and she's been there for 20, maybe 20 plus years.
I think I read 15. I think she was there for 15. Okay. And one of her parting shots was, oh, we're going to build this new terminal, but we're still looking for $1.4 billion. I'm thinking to myself, what? What? They had an announcement they're going to build the new terminal. Now, John, let me ask you this. Let's say once upon a time you had a very busy St. Louis City Hall, and you had 800,000, I think the peak was 896,000 citizens of the city of St. Louis. And Mayor Spencer would come out and say, you know what? City Hall is just not big enough anymore. We need a new City Hall. And most people would say, right-thinking people would go, no, hold on a minute now. That was the City Hall when there were almost 1 million people in the city. Now there's 250,000. It's down
We should need less space, not
exactly. So my point being, once upon a time, St. Louis, when I was flying helicopters, St. Louis was always in the top 10 of busiest airports. And some weeks, they did it week by week. Some weeks we were number 5 because we have the hub for TWA and all the flights that originated from here. Don't you find it a little bit interesting that traffic is way down at Lambert, but yet we need a new, bigger terminal? Don't you find that little head-scratching, John?
Yeah, but maybe it's a circular argument. And maybe the argument is if you build it, they will come. It's the Field of Dreams argument.
Well, that's what they say.
So maybe let's spend a ton of money and build a beautiful airport. And then people will say, you know what? I think I'm going to come to St. Louis because they have a beautiful new airport.
John, do you work for the Chamber of Commerce? Are you?
Yeah, I'm the new Steinbrugge, Arugi, whatever that woman's name was.
Are you rubbing elbows with the former Grand Poobah of Franklin County? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing, John? Tell me.
Well, they are controlled by the city, right? Because of a unique quirk, the airport and all of its operations are actually controlled by the city.
Right, and that was the big debate that Eric Schmidt can still talk about the fact that when the airport took over Bridgeton, essentially it was the city of St. Louis taking over another municipality's property, which they did by eminent domain. They kicked all the people out. And what used to be Bridgeton, which was its own city, is now the city of St. Louis because that's what they did out there. But I just, to me, this whole new terminal thing, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And especially being a guy, when I do fly, I don't fly that much anymore. But when I do fly, I fly Southwest. I've talked about this before. If you have somebody drop you off at the departure up in the top level there at the now what is called Terminal 2, used to be the East Terminal.
Yep, go ahead.
You get out of your car, and if your gates, on any gate, like maybe, I think it's like number 7 through number 11, you walk maybe 50 feet through TSA check out, then you walk another 50 to 100 feet, and you're at your gate. Under the new terminal, everybody would go through the same TSA thing, and the closest terminal would probably be 1,000 feet away from where you drop people off the gate. How is that progress, John? Explain that to me.
It is big progress because you would be forced to walk by a bunch of retailers, and the Missouri Department of Revenue can now charge you on the full sale price and not just the core item price.
I guess. Okay.
It's all a conspiracy, bro.
Ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it, Brad.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
The gloom and doom stories. The gloom and doom stories of the Rockwood School District. Their bond issue didn't pass. And the story's already in the Post-Dispatch about, oh my God, what's going to happen in Rockwood? The teachers may be leaving because they're not making enough money. John, do you feel sorry for the teachers in Rockwood?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I'll admit that I thought that this probably would pass. And unless I'm mistaken, didn't Mark Reardon from 97.1 say that he supported this? Because I remember you would expect a guy like Mark Reardon would be immediately knee-jerk opposition to something like this. But he said, hey, my daughter's in the district. I'm going to support this. So it's always hard to get a yes. It's always easier in anything to be a no. But, the unions, the teachers' unions and the districts usually do such a good job of turning out voters in low turnout elections that I'm surprised that it failed last Tuesday.
Do you know who's a friend of the show who has campaigned against the tax? Niles? You know who we talk about, Niles Stephens?
Yeah, I'm the one that set you up with him. Yeah, I'm familiar with Niles.
Right, okay. He was very, very, very vocal on this. Did a lot of posting on Facebook and various social media sites that I saw. I thought to myself, I thought the same thing. I go, Niles, come on, give it up. You're not going to win this because the teachers union is going to bring out all their voters and this is going to pass. This is going to be easy peasy kind of stuff. But John, can I go back into the archives, the old timey thing? And I've never told this story before. When I was a sophomore at Hazelwood High School, there was, I can't remember if it was a bond issue. I think it was a tax levy. And the district came out and said, unequivocally, they said, if this doesn't pass, the schools will close. They literally.
And you thought that was great. Yeah. You're like, well, I'll campaign against it because I don't want to go to school.
Right. All of us were going like, yes, no more school.
And what happened? It failed. And what happened, Brad?
Well, John, and they kept saying, and matter of fact, the theme, I think they actually hired back in the day, they hired like an ad agency or PR firm. The theme was SOS. Save our schools.
Oh, that's nice, Brad. SOS.
We're sending out an SOS because if you don't vote for this, the schools are going to close. So the day after the election, and it got defeated soundly, the amazing thing happened that we had school. And the day after the day after, and the day after the day after the day after, the day after the day after the day. Get what I'm saying? It was to the point where people going like, okay, what happened to the fact that you told us, the officials of the school district said that if this doesn't pass, the schools are going to close, and they never did. Get what I'm saying, John?
I do. I get exactly what you're saying, and I have to admit, when you started number one here, and you were talking about the woe is me, sky is falling, I thought you would go into SNAP, but I guess there is a parallel there because we heard that people would be on the streets and starving,
right?
And it turns out that folks get their money, and you know what? Rockwood is in school today, and Rockwood will be around tomorrow. And people will continue to want to live in a safe suburban district that has good schools. And if you work for the school district, you're probably disappointed. And yeah, some teachers are surely going to threaten to leave. But people will continue to want. I think there was a guy in St. Charles County that weighed in on schools and crime, Brad. Has he ever guest hosted the show with you?
That would have been Steve Ellman. But see, once again, the situation is, and if I can bring up something, maybe we'll talk about this Z Block. Let's do it. Let's talk about the Caldi situation. Are you familiar? Are you a coffee guy? You're a coffee guy. Do you ever go to Caldi's?
Yeah, I've been to coffee several times. I'm aware that they're unionized. The workers at several locations say they want to unionize. I guess they're taking a page out of the Starbucks book, and union organizers say, hey, our membership is down. What can we do? It worked at Starbucks. Let's go to Caldi's.
Okay, I want to talk about that in C Block because I find that interesting because I don't know if you know there's a link to Caldi's to the radio business. Do you know that?
Yeah, you've talked about it dozens of times on the air, Brad. But for folks who haven't heard that, let's talk about it in C Block.